Attention, attention. So now as I got your attention, I'd like you to shift it. Well, not necessarily in this particular moment, they've only just started. But in this episode, I want to talk about the importance of shifting your attention, choosing the right focal points, and choosing the right very next step in order to understand and grow from any situation, and obviously transform on your life path. So for those who do not know me, my name is Trish Pater, and I'm the conscious channel from the Akashic Records and Hypnotherapist. And I have recently got hooked into reality transurfing ideas presented by Vadim Zilan. So you might see me bringing up some of his quotes while there is a strong resonance between my views as an Akashic Records channel and views presented in reality transurfing books. So long before I'd be introduced to the term space of alternatives, I'd relate to this a quantum or Akashic field. When I'd be explaining the space of future variants, I'd be simply using the term future possibilities. Every time when I'd be explaining to my clients what is the purpose of me accessing the future in Akashic Records and why it is far from definite. And also, obviously, that it's supposed to be treated as the guidance in how to get where I want, what shall be my next step, and what shall I understand on my way there. And not what is actually going to happen, as we don't simply get things without being ready for them. Because any sort of a fortune-telling fairy tale opportunity existing within our possible future needs our action throughout a way to happen. So whatever you get from any sort of a reading about your future, well, it is there. There is that possibility, but we need to take certain steps in order to, shift ourselves there, transurf through those life paths to actually get to this outcome. So regarding those, future possibilities kind of a realm, regarding that space of alternatives, regarding that future, I had that vision I had that vision about it in the form of a sketchbook. So imagine there is a sketch for every possibility of your move. So let's say, if someone just paused you and there was like a slide from a film, and, imagine it as a form of a sketch, so like an outline of the whole picture. To make it easier, maybe picture a specific sort of a scene right now. So imagine yourself in front of a food store holding to the trolley. So obviously, every possibility of you going into any sort of an alley, choosing any product, interacting with any people, every sort of the scene that could be paused, imagine this to exist in a form of a sketch, that outline sketch that I mentioned. So there is an indefinite number of those sketches overlapping each other, right? So you can choose in every single second. You've got an access, an ability of consciously choosing your next step. But most of the time we tend to fall into that, automatic sort of a movement. But yes, technically, you've got a choice, like conscious ability to choose every sort of a step. So, imagine that you, when you take a step, you materialize that part of the sketch. So you're coloring in that part, that slide. You're coloring in this scene, this slide, and it gets you closer or further from a particular possible outcome. So imagine yourself sketching every other step done differently on different transferring sheets, which is transparent, right? So you've got like millions of those transferring paper sheets, and you put them together in a pile with all the paths. So when you look at them, you can see all the paths crossing each other, joining each other, or those paths being going totally apart. So now take into the account that every person will have their own pile of those transferring sheets of possible routes, which also will be crossing in some places with your pile. But it will be completely missing each other in another ones. So I'm saying this to highlight the fact that people tend to crave the information about their future, although this craving most often does nothing more than just fulfills their curiosity, and even more often they lose their interest in working towards this outcome that they have, because they simply choose to wait and see. And obviously nothing happens, because nothing will happen if you don't act. Someone may tell you that you'll have a drink with a beautiful woman tonight, but if you don't go out and head yourself to the bar or restaurant, the woman won't just magically appear at your table with a glass of whiskey and rocks, forcing it down your throat. So we need to make those conscious choices and kind of see through, that sketched sort of a space of possibilities, and which move would have put us further from that what we want to achieve, and which step would put us a bit closer. So going back to one of the main points of main points here today. Why is shifting your attention so important, and why it is, hard sometimes to actually shift your attention? So our perception tends to get distorted with emotions, and we tend to get stuck when we tend to repeat the same patterns all over again. And we tend to fall into sort of a limbo, which is all down to our attention being attached to the wrong focal point for too long, or not attached where it could be at all. So what do we need to do when we get stuck? When our attention is just focused on that one single point and it's just leading us nowhere. So when we get stuck, we need to shift our attention, shift our perception, so to speak. So we need to open ourselves up for a different point of view, a different outcome, a different possibility, see a different perspective, or rather choose a different perspective, because it is all down to our choice. It doesn't just change itself. We need to choose what we want to change. So, it is entirely okay that you cannot see the situation from all the other angles straight away. It is something that requires practice and sometimes a helping hand if the emotions get too much in the way. Although not willing to see any other perspective is a choice, which, it's also a choice, which usually won't get you anywhere. So certainly nowhere desirable. It is, as if you wanted to fill a tea strainer with a liquid and desperately wanted to retain it inside. So, this is a situation in which you can either change your container, or good luck on this one. Because if you just get stubborn in trying to push yourself through a situation exactly the way you think you're supposed to push yourself through, it may just not work out, because you may be missing some of the important points. So, and actually, you may be feeling that situation with too much of an importance, not looking, from different angles. So, to get through a situation, we need to gain some clarity and understanding, or trust and let go, and simply follow the intuition. So obviously not every situation will have the answers ready at hand for you to acknowledge. Although if we don't follow any of those directions, we may get stuck in one position. So if that happens, it does get harder over the time to shift the attention. So it is important to remember about the ability of choosing. So let's say you are in the middle of an argument, just another one this week, and it simply goes over and over again, over and over again, exactly the same way, exactly the same scenario happens. So attention, stop yourself right there. As circulating action needs your immediate reaction, as you got yourself a sweet and dandy, energetic pendulum right there, feeding on your energy as you swirl with your emotions and dance time after time, as if it was some sort of an anti-sensual version of salsa. So ask yourself, what are you focused on in this particular moment? What is carrying you through it? What emotions are evoked, and why do you continuously pay so much attention to them? Have you ever tried anything else rather than squeezing yourself out to the last drop of your sweat, blood, tears, and energy? So, okay, again, pause yourself for a moment. Turn on your conscious analytical abilities. So in that sort of a situation, you can notice, for example, something like, I am focused on winning every time because deep down I am scared of failure. My stubbornness doesn't let me see through this situation. I'm unable to admit that I am wrong, as throughout my whole childhood I was being told that I'm wrong and I am bad and I'm all the other things. And now proving my point gives me a sense of control, and I'm trying to desperately regain that control no matter that costs. So I should really let this go. So, this is, one possible scenario. What can you notice? What can you process within your mind if you pause yourself and disattach yourself from the emotions, separate yourselves from them, and actually notice what is happening, what sort of a show is going on right now. So obviously, this can be many things. The understanding of it, though. So when you understand what is happening, does it make you want to argue furthermore? So don't get me wrong, this is not a time for self-blame and guilt if the situation, is caused by you. But there is never a time for self-blame and guilt. But there is always a time for conscious choices and action. Fundamental demolishing of patterns and self-beliefs, reconstruction of your reality. But again, if you'd be able to instantly see the situation for what it really is, see it past your raging emotions, what would you do? Well, certainly you would do things differently. And obviously, you need to keep in mind that you cannot expect the different outcomes from the same action. So it's definitely time to wake up in time and see the situation for what it really is. Shift that attention of yours. Or, if it gets a bit out of hand and you don't really know where to shift your attention, you don't really know, you're not really able to break through these emotions that are stopping you from having, your mind a bit clear to see. You may just want to seek an advice in searching for this different perception. So when I talk about shifting the attention, the last thing I am inviting you to is what is called spiritual or emotional bypassing. So it's easy to say, wake up, understand the situation for what it really is, do things differently, stay positive by all means. So it is really easy to say that to someone who's actively working through their false beliefs, who's actively working through the traumas, and whose level of understanding and connection with intuition is high enough. But when it is not the case and the situation faced is overly overwhelming emotionally, it might become a bit of a challenge to just, click, bam, you're out of it. You're just looking consciously at the situation. It might be a bit of a challenge. And, telling someone to just stay positive, switch off, like, shift the attention, might turn out to be even more damaging than positive. So, like, what is emotional, spiritual bypassing? You may ask. So, it is about avoidance, and I find it quite, highly important to actually bring it up right here as I speak. So, avoidance is the best way to go forward with when the situation truly do not need you to get involved energetically or emotionally. So, well, in theory, most of them don't, but this is something that applies individually to the person and the circumstances, really. But let's say you are in the shop, right? So, there is a long queue. And some of your choices in that situation are, first would be remain calm and use this time to think about something, plan something out, or that it could be like, giving a quick call to your friends to check in. You could leave the queue and go to a different shop, or you could choose to get angry about it and spend this time lowering your energy to the extreme. This is a typical moment in which you can train yourself to wake up in time and make a conscious choice, make a conscious shift of your attention, knowing what will be best and what will retain your energy. As getting angry in this situation will simply tire you out for no particular reason, and you'll alter the rest of your day for yourself. So, get back to the sketches. You get angry and, a domino effect happens. Like, you stay angry for the rest of the day. You start influencing this anger on the other people. So, this is why it is so important to actually stay conscious within many situations and remember what would be the best choice. So, the fact that you will alter the rest of your day because of your wrong choice is a fact. The fact is a fact, yeah. So, understand your choices and shift your attention and time. Also, there is one important thing you should keep in mind. You never know what's in, those few extra minutes, what these few extra minutes could have saved you from. So try to think wide, as your perspective is focused on the queue itself in this particular moment. But what if there is a drunk driver passing this shop in this exact moment? What if this particular queue has just saved you from an accident and you decided to get angry, not knowing that the universe is actually working in your favor right now? And this cue was, possibly the most important part of your day. What if? So there is always a lot of what ifs. I'm obviously not asking you to think of most morbid possibilities in every moment of your life, but to remember that your perspective is often as small as a drop of water in the ocean. And there are many times when it's important to realize that there is more we could be grateful for rather than be angry about. There is a lot that we simply don't know at the time. And this is a simple truth that should be understood and applied. So choose wisely and shift your attention towards a better choice. So going back to the toxic avoidance, that's, emotional / spiritual bypassing. So there are certain situations which require you to work something through, as if you don't, you'll end up going in circles. Can you shift your attention from your own toxic trait causing the situation to happen the way it happens? Or can you instantly shift your attention while your insides are torn by emotions induced by a trigger related to your trauma? These are a situation that will make it extremely hard. And these situations will need an extra understanding of the situation. So you're burning with anger or sadness because someone said something to you, and it is instantly, invited your subconscious to spill the goodness. So, no, like, this is not a situation. I'm angry because the queue is long and I'd rather be somewhere else, so I choose to be ignorant about my attitude. This is a different situation in which you have experienced some kind of an abuse, neglect, mistreat in the past, and you did not heal it. So you did not reprogram your understanding and emotional response towards similar potential triggers. You may not even be aware of, that defense mechanism that you're turning on right now in this particular moment. You may not be aware of the reasons that are actually turning this defense mechanism on at that time. So, so your next step here is to notice that something is wrong and seek an advice to set things right. So one of your choices is to avoid it, of course, but you can be certain that it will build up and get in your way again. So remember not to repress all of your emotions, thinking they're inappropriate and that it's negative to have them. This is spiritual bypassing. So it is important for you to analyze the situation and work on, awakening your conscious response more often. But also notice if there is something that is blocking or triggering you. As I said, it's really easy to say stay positive, just change within that moment, awake. And it will be like, with practice, with training, it will get easier over the time with most of the situations. But there will be certain situations that will be reflecting something that is programmed within our subconscious, something that's, just flowing out from the inside, and something that, we find hard to control, because there will be times when we'll feel as if it was controlling us instead of us controlling it. So this is a moment when we would like to seek an advice, to see that different perspective, to see that reason for what is happening in that particular moment. Why is it happening? So this is why I love Akashic Records so much, because, this is my most favorite method of accessing the information that are out there, accessing the space of alternatives, looking through those blockages, those emotions, reasons for why we are getting stuck, why we're getting triggered, why we are finding it so hard to make a step forward, in finding the information about how the choice may play out. So This is something I will talk about in the next episode. As today, my main goal was just to show you the importance of something so little, like a very little part of your day, which is actually not so little, which is one of the most important parts of your days. Shifting your attention, staying conscious, making conscious choices of, of focusing your attention. So that would be it for today. And I hope I got you a bit closer to what I am. How am I looking? How am I looking? Not me. Like, how am I looking onto the world? And what kind of principles I'd say I follow when I work. So yeah, that's all for today. Thank you for listening to me. And speak to you soon. Bye.